everybody, it is me, Brian Vaughn, and we are back for another virtual clogging interview, and I think you're going to love this one. It is with a clogging rock star, ladies and gentlemen. There's no other way I could put it. Mike Curtis from All That, so stay tuned. It is me, Brian Vaughn. We are here on my YouTube channel, Bry Clogger, and as you know, we've been trying to drive traffic and interest in the American folk art of clogging, and currently we're doing a series of interviews with people that I consider to be clogging legends, people that have had a great, dynamic, lasting effect on clogging, and today we have an amazing guest, a guy named Mike Curtis from All That, you guys. I'll tell you, Burton Edwards was the original rock star of clogging. Well, Mike Curtis is the Elvis Presley of clogging today, and he's right here with us right now. Hi, Mike. How you doing?
How you doing, Brian? Good to see you, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. You know, we've paralleled careers over the years, and it's been we bumped into each other in person a few times, but we virtually connected. So a virtual interview seems like it should work out just right for us, right?
Yeah, we're right at home with this. I promise.
Well, I'm excited you're here today, and hopefully people will subscribe to my channel for other interviews and for this one to get to see a little bit more about you and about all that. And we got some other big news we're going to talk about. But let's start off with the most basic question I ask everybody. I'm going to ask everybody. Tell me how you started clogging and who was your clogging teacher. Tell me that story a little bit.
Man, so back when I started a little late. I was 14 years old when I started.
Oh, me
and
too.
I was big into sports. Yeah. So see, you know, the greats do it alike, Brian. I'm telling you.
That's right.
I was big into sports in high school, and during the summer there was not a lot to do. And my little grandma wanted to take clogging lessons and didn't want to do it alone, so she promised that she'd pay for mine if I'd do it with her. So I was like, you know what the heck, I don't have anything to lose. So I decided to take clogging lessons with my grandma. And Steve Smith, you want to talk about legends. Steve Smith from Kentucky was my original instructor. And I think that's where my luck started. I think he's about the best instructor you could ever ask for.
Oh, that's cool.
I got started with that guy, yeah. So I got started with him and ran into Brent Montgomery later on. And Brent Montgomery taught me all. Yeah, you know, Brent was the man when it came to this. I think if you stack all the good guys that have ever been on stage in their prime, I think Brent would wipe it up with everybody. I think he was that good, and I was lucky enough to get with him at just the right time. So.
Yeah, Brent was amazing, and I used to love watching him dance at the hee haw competition. He was amazing.
Yeah. Crazy the power that little, because he wasn't but about 130 pounds, and the power he could get to come out of his feet when he was 130 pounds, I was like, golly, man. Yeah, it just made you want that.
Sometimes I envy those skinny guys, because I've never been a skinny guy, right? Like, it's a little harder to carry 200 pounds around and try to move that fast.
Talk to me, brother.
So you had Steve Smith, Brent Montgomery. Who were some other people you looked up to when you were clogging, when you were learning to clog?
Well, so growing up in the circuit, going to all the workshops, all the competitions and all that type of stuff, there was always people that you looked up to. Jeff Driggs was a big one for me. And Driggs was more of a mentor off of the clogging stage than he was on. You know, he always tried to take us young up and coming guys and lead us in the right direction, and this and that. Tandy Barrett and Simone were big. Lynn Ogle, they were all big because they kind of saw something special happening with us group of boys, and they kind of took our hands and led us down the right road, if you will, in the competition, the workshop circuit. They didn't allow us to get in trouble, which we could have probably easily done. And so, but those people, they were always there teaching, so we always looked forward to going and seeing them, but we always looked forward to the wisdom, if you will, that they were going to pass on to us. So I really appreciated all those types. Lynn would always treat us like a son, and whether it was good or bad, she'd tell us what we wanted to hear, what we needed to hear. You know, she'd grab us and say, hey, boy, you need to come here and act right and not get into this and not get into that. I'll tell you somebody else though, Brian, that had a big influence on me. It was just his personality, how happy and fun he was to be around, and all the clogging was Charlie Burns.
Oh, okay.
And, you know, he's gone now. He passed away just recently. And man, how you missed that dude. But his personality was so fun, and his energy that he brought to a clogging class made you look forward to his clogging classes. Just a huge deal. So it was so much fun to be around all those different.
I remember Charlie Burns' name, but we never really crossed paths a lot because of the distance. But he definitely had a strong reputation. It was kind of like Bill Nichols. Bill Nichols and I crossed paths a little bit, but I never really got to know him. I just know of him because he did so much, you know. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, so you started when you were 14, like I started when I was 14. I hated clogging when I started, by the way. That's another story for another day. When did you realize it was going to play such a big part in your life?
You know, kind of like you, I was a little bored when I started. You know, I was big into sports, and sports were always really exciting, everything that you did. And when I got into this, I was a good 8 to 10 weeks in, and I was starting to get a little bored. And I walked into a little fun dance in a little school in Winchester, Kentucky. And that's the first time I saw Brent Montgomery dance. And this cat was doing a whole different level of stuff than I was doing. It's stuff that I hadn't even seen. So I'm not scared of anybody. A celebrity I see, I'm going to talk to him. So I walked up to Brent that day because I wasn't scared. And I said, dude, you're doing a whole different level of stuff that I've learned. I was on the verge of quitting this. Will you show me a step real quick? Brent showed me a step. I picked it up really fast. And at that point, Brent told me, he said, you're on to something, you could blah, 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 blah. So that kind of encouraged me to want it more, you know?
Yeah.
And I was told by the best I'd ever seen that I had what it took. And so at that point, I knew I could potentially do this. And as competitive I wasn't going to miss my shot, if you will.
And so that was right about the time Brent was ruling the school. Like, he was winning everything at that time, because if you started when you were 14, I'm a few years older than you. That had to be like 1989-ish.
So it was probably not 89, 90, somewhere around in there, yeah.
Yeah, Brent had just won overall at Hee Haw. He was on fire then, yeah, for sure.
And when you went to a competition on the East Coast, you were fighting for second place. It was over when you walked in, and it was unlike anything I'd ever seen when it came to that. So it was my determination. I was gonna dance with that dude one way or the other, and we finally made it happen. So
that's cool. Very cool. Very cool. Well, so when did you first meet the other guys from all that? How did you put that group together?
So on the competition circuit, there was a period, probably 7 or 8 years or so, that one of us won. So Brian, DeLon, and myself all danced on the same team with Brent. Ultimate Dance Force was the name of that team back in the early 90s. And so we all danced together, so we knew each other well. This kid came along around 95-ish, 96, somewhere, Mark Clifford. And he came up to us, and he was really, really confident, and like, we kind of looked at him like, where is this dude coming from? But then he danced, you know, and this kid was bad to the bone. So the more we talked to him, he came up with this idea. He said, we ought to start dancing together and blah, blah, blah. And we ended up doing a performance. I think around 99 or so was the first performance we did. So it took a few years for him to convince us and this and that. But the reaction from that first performance was pretty cool. So that kind of changed all of our minds on what we were doing and what our look ahead to the future might have been at that point. So
cool. I remember the first time I saw you dance. I don't remember who it was you did the duet with. It was in Arizona. You did a duet to I Want to Be Like Mike.
Oh, that was DeLon.
It was DeLon. That was a long time ago, but it was good. That was the first time I ever saw you dance.
The funny story about that, we were at Opryland, the big dog competition, and me and DeLon are out there messing around. He said, we ought to make up a duo. So we go out in the parking lot and literally in a half hour made that duo up and started competing at the next competition. And we never had any idea that would have the effect it did, but man, that was a cool, fun dance to do. There was never any pressure. We just got out there and acted a fool for 2 minutes, and it turned out well.
Well, that's what I think competition needs a little more of sometimes, is performance. Like when you're like, you know what I mean, having a good time, and not just, I love, don't get me wrong, I'm not, everybody out there, I love competition, I love the technical stuff, but I want it to be exciting, right, and character driven, right, where they get to know a little bit about you, and that's what makes them want to come back for more. Yeah, Mark Clifford came in, you guys put together all that, and did you immediately come up with the name? Was there a light that came on, we're just gonna call it all that?
No, we beat around the bush a while on the names. Mark had a few different ones. There were a couple that we had thought about using and we're almost ready to use. And then we got to thinking, the internet's coming into play here. What if a kid gets on and types this in? What's going to come up? Is it the wrong thing going to come up? And this and that and this and that. And so we ultimately decided on the name, all that. And people always ask, how'd you come up with that? And we wanted to do all that we could do with our God-given talent. And it took all of us to accomplish all that. So that's kind of the conversation that went down in order to come up with that. Yeah, so it sounds kind of cocky to other people, but there is a method behind the madness. They've called us out on some of the TV shows and this and that about it, and not on camera, but they've asked us, why do you call yourself such a cocky name or such a arrogant name or whatever? And then we have to explain it to them and let them know because we're all small town guys. We're not that way. So, but I can see how it can have that effect if you don't know the story.
I love that you guys had the conscience enough to think about your name in terms of what are kids and families going to think someday.
Yeah.
Because that has always been a big priority for me. Like, I want my groups, my students to be family friendly, still fun and cool and exciting, but nothing that's not appropriate for a kid that's 8 that's going to come watch my show to do
That's
or
exactly
watch.
right.
So good for you.
That's exactly.
So your original guys were DeLon Curtis, Mark Clifford. I'm not DeLon Curtis. I'm sorry, DeLon Collins. Sorry, you tell me. Tell me the original guys.
DeLon Collins, Brian Staggs, Mark Clifford, and myself.
Okay. And when did it go to 5 guys?
So it went to 5 around 2006. We got the gig here at the Carolina Opry in Myrtle Beach in 2005. We danced for about a year. Then we had Kenneth Fithen was our guy here. And in 2006, when we got the call about the audition for the very first America's Got Talent, we were talking about it, and we all said, we need to make sure Kenneth goes, because Kenneth at that point was just strong. He fit in perfect. And so rather than have 4, we wanted to take 5 there.
So did Carolina Opry came before AGT?
Yeah, we started the Carolina Opry in February of 2005. It was actually Valentine's Day weekend, 2005. And the first AGT was we got the call to come to the first audition. It was probably around February of 2006. 2006 was the year that it aired and all that type of stuff. So we were there about a year before that happened.
Very cool. I did not know that. I thought it went the other order. So I'm looking really quick. So I'm gonna separate our interview here because we're gonna go on. We're gonna end this one. And so everybody out there, subscribe to my channel. Make sure you check out the next part of our interview, part 2. We're going to talk to Mike a little bit about his family, his dog, and we're also going to talk to him about America's Got Talent before and after and all of that exciting stuff. Make sure you guys come back for part number 2 of this interview. Mike Curtis is a total hoot, a gentleman, and a scholar. You're not going to want to miss it. And subscribe to the channel.